Rubenstein, week 3 is upon us. Welcome back to the podcast, my good friend. How goes it today?
Oh, it's so good, Ty. It's so excellent to be here with you. I love these kind of weeks where it's the first glance. Man, I don't know. I guess I'll watch a lot of Indiana UCLA at night. Or man, I wish this team were a little bit better to get like my appetite a little bit more growling at 3:30 Eastern or whatever. But these are the weeks, Ty. These are those weeks. You know how it works. Where the obvious headliners are not jumping out to you. That's somebody's going to get snatched from underneath, Ty. You know that.
It's always the quiet ones, is it not?
It's always the quiet ones.
It is always the quiet ones. Welcome back in. I'm Ty. He is Dan. This is the Solid Verbal College Football Podcast. Hit follow, hit subscribe. If you've already done that, please tell your friends. We are growing like a weed here, Dan. It is the season. It's the reason for the season as we talk all things college football every Sunday, every Tuesday, every Thursday. You could tune in, of course, at midnight on Saturday if you really want to be there on the bleeding edge as we react to all that was in the world of college football. This is going to be an interesting week for us. I looked at the point spreads as you described. I do not feel confident about most of them. That being said, I will add, and I'm jinxing myself by saying this, I should probably just shut up while I'm ahead. The last 2 Saturdays of college football bets that I've put into like my personal account, 13-0. 13-0. So I've hit the last 2 locks, right? I didn't hit it in week 0, but I hit the last 2.
Yeah.
And then many of the other bets that I've talked about on this show, been using those, and I've been incredibly lucky. So we'll see now if it goes belly up in week 3, which is usually how this works with the betting gods. But 13-0 the last 2 Saturdays is going to try and keep the train rolling here.
Is there a type of bet? Is there a conference? Is there a specialty in your 13-0?
No, there's no specialty. I stay away from the parlays because the parlays have felled many a great betting man, and I'm just sticking to what we talk about on this show.
Okay.
So, I think if you take our picks in totality, they're probably around 500. That's the way it usually works. But at least the ones that I am picking out on the day of and putting into my account, those have worked out pretty well. So if you're new here, I'm doing my best to share some of that wealth.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, it'd be great if you could consider subscribing to the YouTube channel down below. It really helps us out. Listen, I don't know if you want to get into any other housekeeping, but I've got a couple things to say. You tell me.
No, please. What do you got?
Well, so I'm looking at the slate. I'm looking at the schedule, Ty. And I like to do these nicknames, whether it's, what did we do last week? Sauerkraut Saturday. We've done Centaur Saturday. We go in a number of different directions. And I look at the matchups that we had to have ahead of us collectively, the college football universe. And I'm investigating, right? I'm tracking down details. I am following leads. And I'm trying to be this detective here, Ty, and just finding where the information is, finding where the action is. And I thought to myself, well, it's not a weekend of like hardcore top 5 matchups, top 15 matchups or something like that. But I think there's a lot of steaminess going on in this sport on Saturday, Ty.
Agreed. I agree.
I don't know if it's just the weather. I don't know if it's just the unknowns. I don't know if it's the new conferences, right? New blood everywhere. But I'm looking at this, and I think there's a lot of secret action happening, Ty. So I want to welcome everybody to Cinemax Saturday.
Passion, surrender, forbidden, dangerous.
That's right, Ty. We're those corrupt detectives looking for steam on the job in Cinemax Saturday. I have forever altered my Google search history and algorithm to figure out the best way to make a sound that represents Cinemax, Skinemax, Softcore Saturday, whatever you want to say it. I opted not to say Secret Snatch Saturday, Ty, because I didn't think that was the move.
No.
So Cinemax Saturday. I don't even know if Cinemax exists. I don't think it does. It's like combined with HBO for Max, right?
I have no idea.
I know the late night stuff. There was like that big news story that they were like done producing those types of movies, which I had no idea they were still producing those types of movies. Yeah. But I'm very excited for this, Ty. I still see a good amount of action, even if it's not the full weekend.
Just enough action to get that blood pumping and keep you awake till 10 p.m., right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's the way it works here in week 3. Well, again, welcome back in. Again, hit the follow buttons. Going out to verballers.com. We are doing a run the board game again in week 3, as we have done the previous 2 weeks. This week, we are giving away a $100 gift card to REI. So whether you're out there, you're doing tailgating stuff, whether you're out there exploring the great outdoors, they got a little something for everybody. We picked it up on our own accord, not a sponsor, absolutely could be, but we figured that'd be something that I think a lot of people are into. So all you got to do is go to verballers.com if you want to get in on our Run the Board Pick'em game. I'm going to drop the post on Patreon here shortly after we hit stop today. It's been a fun game through 2 weeks. Going to continue being the case now for the remainder of the season. And then, of course, as we get into bowl seasons, we'll have another game. So everybody is invited to come into our game and play against us and see how you do against Verballerhood.
It's the best. I love it. Unless kind of scared of competition, right?
Unless you're scared of competition. I can't speak for those folks, but
that's true.
Let's get to games.
Dan, time, help. I need picks of the week.
Here's a fun fact if we're peeling back the curtain of the solid verbal, if we're going, opening up the full kimono here, as you like to say. I have forgotten to play that sound the last 2 episodes that we've done.
But now?
Well, I did it now.
You're back, baby.
Now.
We're so back.
We are so back. We forgot to play the last 2 episodes. I added it in post on the last episode because it's kind of like a rite of passage here when we start talking about games and previewing games and that sort of thing. Got to make sure I play it. On this Cinemax Saturday, Dan, we have a very interesting slate as you've described. I have broken kind of our big games up into 2 categories. One is way too early rivalry games that we do need to discuss that I think are going to be front of mind for a lot of our listeners. And then we also have a trifecta of interesting SEC games, I guess, that I want to cover at the top before we go in and talk about your quads, before we go in and talk about some of the other knickknacks going on around college football. I want to start with West Virginia versus Pitt, the so-called Backyard Brawl, Dan.
Yeah, baby.
I do have a question for you. When we have a rivalry, doesn't matter who the 2 teams are, what do we do with the stats? What do we do with the records? Just full disclosure.
Got to throw them out. Got to throw those records out.
Throw them out the window. Doesn't mean squat. In this case, Pitt's 2-0. West Virginia 1-1, lost their opening game to Penn State. West Virginia is a 2-point favorite. This game's 3:30 on ESPN2. Just for context, we had a big comeback win a week ago for Pitt. They were down 21 points to Cincy, and then came back, won that game late. Meanwhile, West Virginia beat up on Albany. Not much to talk about there.
No.
West Virginia won this game 17-6 a year ago. That game was a rock fight, 3 picks. Phil Jerkovic played in that game.
For Pitt.
Garrett Green and C.J. Donaldson both got hurt. Both teams finished with an identical 211 total yards. So you know what kind of game that was. Who do you got in this game?
I think I'm going Pitt. I'm going Pitt at home in a rivalry game. I think that comeback might... Look, there's a letdown potential if it were a normal matchup, but it's West Virginia, right? So you're not... losing track of what's in front of you. So Pitt with home field advantage, with more of an offense, with a dangerous offense at its best, right? It wasn't dangerous for the first however many quarters last week, but Eli Holstein, we'll see on the defense, a legit weapon in Des Reed for Pitt, and I need to see a trace of offense from West Virginia, and West Virginia is not week 1 West Virginia. Nobody is who they are in week 1.
Right.
But in a rivalry game at home for Pitt, I think this new look Pitt offense, I think that might energize the Panthers a little bit, the way that they were able to finish last week and not give up on that game, take advantage of those opportunities. And with West Virginia, I want to see more offense. That to me is a bigger question. So I'm going with Pitt here at home to win this. Current line is
2 in favor of West Virginia on the road.
Yeah, I don't think they've earned that home favor. It's saying that road favorite status. So I'm going Pitt at home as a dog in a rivalry match.
That's really interesting.
Yep.
So the early stats here say that both defenses are gettable through the air. I say you can't trust those stats until like October.
I agree.
It takes a minute for those to settle in and for them to normalize out, and it's a rivalry game, so we throw out all that stuff anyway. For me, this is an Ashanti game, Dan. It's about trust, babe.
Okay. Who is it that you trust, though?
My trust is West Virginia and Garrett Green.
Okay.
That's who I trust here. We know they want to run the ball, provided they have some success on the ground. They can slow the pace. They can limit how many bites at the apple this apparently high-tempo Pitt offense is going to get. My favorite nugget of the week is this, to that point. Pitt is averaging about 21 seconds per play. That is a full 6 seconds faster than the national average. So we talked a lot in the preseason about Pitt's got Cade Bell. He was running the offense for Western Carolina. They're going to do something very different this year. They're going to play with tempo and shotgun. It's going to look completely different. It has. And that's a number that I think indicates that they're just playing a lot quicker. It's great when it works if you play at that tempo. But if you've got an opponent that can run, control clock, force you to be super efficient in order to win, I think that is something that we just haven't seen Pitt do with this new system yet. It took a while last week for it to click against a better opponent. So I am not as bullish on Pitt in this game as you are. I still like them on the whole, and I still think it's going to be an interesting team to chart moving forward. But I feel like I am on West Virginia here. I'm just a PA guy with a West Virginia heart, Dan. I've got 27-20 West Virginia.
Yeah, Penn State are picking against Pitt. Surprise, surprise.
Surprise,
Ty.
surprise, yeah.
No, the matchup that's certainly an advantage for the ears is their two-headed running back situation with C.J. Donaldson and Shaheem White, and a Pitt run defense that certainly didn't look good last week against Cincinnati. And really, Cincy probably should have been running it a lot more in that second half, maybe more creatively. But every time they threw it, it seemed to be a good, nice little thumbs up to Pitt to keep at it. So I understand where you're coming from, but I don't know. I think the Universal is sprinkling good dust in the Pitt direction in this one.
Good dust. Yeah, and to be clear, by the way, there is another way to look at my argument, which is if they slow the game down, if they force them to be super efficient and hit on every drive, that makes it harder for Pitt. That's true.
Yeah.
It is also true that Pitt has been crazy efficient on offense this year.
Yeah.
Maybe not against opponents the same caliber as West Virginia. I think West Virginia is better than Cincinnati personally. But we've seen them do that. The numbers bear that out. So
I agree.
I would like to see them do it again. I do think this is a different matchup than we saw a week ago, and that they've seen probably the toughest opponent they've seen all year, for sure.
Yeah.
What's your final score?
I'm going to go Pitt 30-28.
Okay, we disagree.
We disagree right off the bat.
Another rivalry, 3:30 on Fox. They used to call it the Civil War. I guess they stopped doing that.
Yeah.
We started calling it the Platypus Cup.
Yeah.
The good news is that it's still on, even though there have been some conference realignment moves. Oregon minus 16 on the road against Oregon State. So let me start here. I want to tee you up with this.
Mm-hmm.
I have not watched a ton of Oregon football. I've gone through, I've looked at highlights, I've looked at the cut-ups and whatnot. I want to know what, if anything, is wrong with Oregon right now. Like, if you had to pick something out, what would you say is wrong? Because it does not seem as if this team has achieved this optimal national championship level that we expected.
Yeah.
What's wrong? What are they doing to fix it?
Right now, if you're going to point to one overarching thing that's wrong with Oregon so far relative to ceiling and expectations, it is sort of an undisciplined offensive approach right now. And it is Dillon Gabriel not seeming to be fully comfortable within this offense, going with shorter stuff, but maybe because he's not fully comfortable, maybe because he doesn't fully trust the offensive line. The interior of the offensive line has been below average at best, although they rotated in a new sort of look that was more successful against Boise State at times. It appears they're going to be healthier this week. They're on the road at Oregon State, which obviously there's a lot of emotion tied up, even more with Oregon State no longer being in the same conference as Oregon. So, this is going to be what I would assume a likely electric atmosphere in Corvallis at Reser Stadium. But in terms of what's wrong with Oregon, it has been, I think, undisciplined on offense is the right term. The penalties, the calling out of protections, and I don't know. I think it is a fixable thing provided Dillon Gabriel's comfort, is sort of added to every week.
Okay. My concern is that Oregon State looks pretty committed to the running game.
Yeah.
And some of the early indicators are that they actually might be pretty good at it. Might be.
Sure.
Pretty good at it. So given what happened last week when Boise and Ashton Ginty ran all over Oregon, you can see where I'm going with this. How big of a concern is that scenario for you in this one?
It's Anthony Hankerson and Jam Griffin in the backfield for Oregon State, along with Giovanni McCoy, the Idaho transfer, who's also quite mobile. Not as big a concern.
Okay.
Ashton Ginty's a clear-cut NFL running back. Maybe a first-round pick. I don't know. Oregon did actually, they on a few plays, they did a terrible job. But by and large, especially with the game on the line, they really tightened up. They played the run pretty well. The defensive line played the run largely very well. Linebackers and safeties were more hit and miss, but I think it's going to improve just because I think the defensive line is that good. So he got his on a couple of really long runs, but I think, I don't know, at least half of the runs were like 3-yard runs. It wasn't like a crazy efficient performance all the time. So that doesn't concern me as much. I think what concerns me is Oregon shooting itself in the foot now on the road in what will be a difficult place to play, given the situation. I'm not terribly worried about the Oregon State offense in this moment as an Oregon human. But I don't know. I suppose it could change. I just don't think the overall talent level is there and the depth is there to stay with Oregon. So to me, if Oregon, and look, right, if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bicycle, all that kind of stuff, right? We're trying to live in reality here. But to me, this number is very different if Oregon looks a little bit different last week.
This number is way higher. If not just last week, in week 1.
So if Oregon is eventually going to look somewhere in the vicinity of expectations, there's going to be value to be had. So I'm going to give the points on the road here.
I understand where you're coming from with that. And to be honest, it's a similar calculation if we talk about a team like an Oklahoma.
Sure.
Right? Another team that I think.
But I don't think Oklahoma had the expectations that Oregon did.
Certainly not. But definitely expecting more than what we saw, last week, to say the least.
Yeah.
I came away somewhat disappointed. We could talk about Oklahoma in a little bit, but this is going to be something to follow because Oregon, to your point, has felt really out of sync. And Oregon State's looked quite good. They won 21-0 against San Diego State. For whatever that's worth to you, it should have been like 34-0.
Yep.
I do like the new quarterback as well. What's going to happen here is I'm going to pick
Oregon State's, by the way, lost a lot of quality players and obviously their coaching staff from last year.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible that they've looked good in the early part of the season, given all the turnover they've had to deal with. It's a lot. It is a lot. They've done a good job up there. What's going to happen is I'm going to pick Oregon State to cover.
Yeah.
And then Oregon's going to go full Super Saiyan and win by like 27 points.
Yeah.
My sense is it's a 10-point game. These rivalries are weird.
Okay.
We know this game is meaningful to Oregon State. I do think that they have looked better than expected in the early part of the season. I think Oregon wins 31-21, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Okay. That's interesting. Remember, there is, personal Dan Lanning, right? They give away this game 2 years ago. Yep. And so, there was the, Dan Lanning can't even beat Oregon's rivals. And so there is going to be increased, not that you need increased focus, but if it's a 10-point game, maybe starters stay in for a little while longer near the end of the game. If it's a 17-point game, if it's a 20-point game, right?
Going for the neck crack.
Foot is going to be on the gas. Yeah.
Okay. What's your final score?
I'm going to go 38-14 Oregon.
Wow. Well, that'd be good for you. You'd like that.
I would like that, yes.
3:30 on Peacock. It's the Apple Cup. It is Washington State on the road against Washington. Washington is a 4.5 point favorite. Dan, we're living in a John material world, are we not?
We are. I like that. Good job by you.
Are you a material girl?
After rewatching and watching back the Wazoo Texas Tech game and his ability, he's a nifty little runner, Ty. I like what the running back next to him. It's what's his name? Ty, give me the Washington State running back's name, the new running back for Wazoo. I can't believe I'm blanking on his name because he was really fun to watch and wasn't heavily recruited.
Talking about Wayshawn Parker.
Wayshawn Parker, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think their ability to run. I like their offensive line. I don't think he's much of a passer. The game is in Seattle, but not at Husky Stadium, right? It's
correct.
At whatever used to be Quest Field, whatever they're calling it now, I think, where the Seahawks play. I may be going Wazoo here. It was close last year with the most successful Washington team of the modern era. I don't know if it's the best team. I think that was 2016. They also went to the playoff. The most successful team and it was close. Now, it's not a Cam Ward Wazoo team, but there is something about the firecracker element of this rushing attack for Wazoo and a brand new Washington defense that I don't know. I can't shake. And it's another one of those matchups that's going to have a little extra juice, a little extra spice. It's extra picante, Ty.
I agree with that. And truly, going off the stat profile, you're
Wazoo
right.
also lost their AD to Washington, right?
Yes.
That was a thing, too. Okay.
That was the thing. We did a video on it in the offseason.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is that if you go off the stat profile, Wazoo looks sneaky good. It bears itself out in those numbers. They've scored 107 points so far in just 2 games. They absolutely throttled Texas Tech last week. Texas Tech might be down bad. We'll talk about them at some point. But
yeah,
by some measure, Washington State is one of, if not the most explosive teams in college football.
Yeah.
They have gotten big plays thus far. My concern with Wazoo is whether they're a one-trick pony with John Mateer or not.
I hear you.
You know, like if Washington can shut them down, do they have that second pitch? Maybe it's Wayshawn Parker. I don't know. But that's I think, the concern for me going into this game. I would also add, if we're talking about stat profiles,
please,
on a per-play basis, Washington's actually been really good this season as well.
And they played who?
I know. I get it. I understand at this point. This is why I said you can't take these numbers too literally. But it's just important context, I think, in a game like this. Too many penalties for Washington. Really bad starting field position on offense. I mean, really bad.
Yeah.
But Will Rogers has been solid. He's gotten better. Jonah Coleman at running back looks really good on the ground. I kind of feel like this line is way too low. I really do. I'm actually going in the complete opposite direction as you.
Okay.
And I feel about Washington the way you felt about Oregon. I think it's something like 37-20 Washington. I think they run away with it.
Yeah, I think Washington might be more gettable than we realize on the ground, which is a specific nice matchup for Wazoo. This is a fully new team that I'm just not confident in anything in either direction with Washington. Whereas at least with Wazoo, with coaching continuity, coordinator continuity, and now that the offensive staff for Wazoo has a better concept of what John Mateer can do well, which is move the ball with his feet. After what they've seen in live action against a quality team, I don't know. I think they're more tested. I think they have more juice, and I'm ready for it, Ty.
You are a material girl through and through.
I am.
All right, let's travel back in time for a second if we can. 12 p.m. on Fox. It is Alabama minus 16 on the road at Wisconsin. Madison's going to be rocking for this one, Dan. A great non-conference matchup. I'm not sure that Tyler Van Dyke from 2021 is walking through that door, but it is cool that we get this matchup. Great. I like this matchup. I think this is going to be a fun game, if nothing more, for Wisconsin fans to go and see with their own eyes. So what we see, if we look at numbers, again, not to make it all about that, but it's important context. Through 2 weeks, Wisconsin has generated basically no big plays. They're one of the 3 least explosive teams in college football. And the telling stat for me, I like my air yards, 119th in air yards per target.
Yeah.
So it's not even really trying to stretch the field.
No.
It's early. It could change, but they are sort of playing like they're Iowa North. And that type of thing might work in a knife fight against Minnesota or Purdue. I don't know.
Look, he says derisively. Yeah.
It's not going to work against a really fast Alabama defense that can stack the box, that can dare Tyler Van Dyke to beat him deep. So I think we're probably both leaning in the same direction. It's a question of the point spread. Where are you at with this one?
Man, I went back and forth. What's the 16 points?
16.
Okay, so you have to like Wisconsin on a certain level if you think that they are going to truly make this a game. When you look at what ailed Alabama last week as they went, I think all but the last 6 or 7 minutes is when they started pouring it on. They made an offensive line change, whatever. It was dumb turnovers, penalties, and it was, I think USF was especially atrocious on third down, right? It was just they were getting Byron Brown with his legs, extending drives, whatever it was on first and second down. Tyler Van Dyke is not Byron Brown athletically, right? He's not going to be able to make those types of plays when things break down. So you have to like Wisconsin on a certain level, and you have to like something about Wisconsin on offense. And if you don't like Tyler Van Dyke, and you don't like that their receivers don't have consistent pop, you're like, well, maybe they can run the ball. I don't think Ches Malusi has averaged 4 yards in a game in Wisconsin's opening 2, right? He's gotten the most carries, I believe, and is not averaging. He's like 3 yards per carry against North Dakota and who did they play in week 1? Wisconsin played another team that you can't base a lot on, and he still wasn't running all that well.
Right.
So it's a big number, but I can't make the case for Wisconsin's offense, even though they're at home. Even though I think the Wisconsin defense is good, I don't think you can make the case that they can sludge it up for more than 2.5, 3 quarters here. So I think Alabama's going to cover. I really do.
I do think that the defense can hold its own for a while.
Yeah, so do I.
But you're right. They're going to need something from this offense. By the way, Western Michigan in week 1 was the team you were trying to think of.
Western Michigan, excuse me, who also got shelled by Ohio State in a much uglier fashion this past week.
For sure. Wisconsin won that game 28-14. They are still finding their way, still trying to build this thing now under the tutelage of Luke Fickell. And it's going to take a little bit, I think, to get there. But I do not see the pop on offense that leaves me feeling confident they can cover the spread. You're really relying on defense and more mistakes from Alabama. And historically for me, that has not been a winning formula if we're picking these games. So I think Bama is going to hammer Wisconsin 34-10. I don't even think this is close.
Man, the thing is on that same level though is like Alabama still needs to get its act together. Like they should have won last week much more comfortably at home than they did. There was unfortunate passing. There was miscommunications. Line play wasn't good. If your offensive line's not in order and you're going against Wisconsin's defensive front, I think you're still going to struggle. It's, to me, a question still, though, to repeat again. You got to like something about Wisconsin's offense.
You do. You can't just wish cast. Right. You need to point to something and say, aha, that's the thing. And maybe something will pop up that we're not seeing, that we haven't seen yet. But yeah, and to your point about Alabama, it's true for Alabama, it's true for LSU, it's true for Oklahoma, it's true for Oregon, for Notre Dame. We could go right down the list.
Right.
You can call it Cinemax or Softcore Saturday if you want. It's also a little bit of a snap out of it Saturday too.
Yeah.
You're just waiting for some of these teams to kind of revert into the form that we all expected in the preseason. Bama definitely rises to that level as well. So 34-10 for me. What's your final?
I'm going to go with 31-13 cover.
Okay, we agree.
Yeah, we agree.
High noon ABC, another SEC game. It is LSU -7 on the road versus South Carolina. The early returns, Dan, on this new look, this big money LSU defense.
Yeah. Another
Great.
sluggish start last week against Nichols. Yeah.
Yeah. If you run the numbers right now, this projects as like an 8-4 team.
Okay.
Given where they're at.
Fair.
They have not stopped the pass a lick. They've had no success, virtually no success running the ball. And now John Emery's done for the year with a torn ACL, which is unfortunate. My read on LSU, and I'm not trying to push the panic button too much, this is a very flawed team still. And they are sorting themselves out after a lot of turnover from a year ago, especially on offense. A terrible defensive year that they're still trying to organize themselves in a better capacity in 2024. I don't know if that changes against a hungry opponent in their home stadium. But 7 points is the line. Who you got?
I'm with you, though. The only thing I'll disagree with you on is just like, it's one game, and it was against USC, who won last second on a neutral field. And we don't know exactly what USC is, but it's not fully fair to judge LSU's defensive progress based solely on essentially a game against a worthwhile opponent. All due respect to Nichols. South Carolina is interesting to me. South Carolina, I was down on, as most people were, and they haven't lost, went to Kentucky, blew the doors off them.
Killed them.
I have no idea if Lenora Sellers is good, but they seem to be scheming up some really nice plays for him, especially with him on the run some, because the offensive line has a ways to go to me. But he's able to improvise. He's able to make plays. We'll see on the ability for them to consistently run the ball. But at home, with that defensive line, as dogs, what's the line as of this recording?
7.
Home dog with a good defensive front, if not very, very strong. Playmaking quarterback. Did you know that Nick Harbor had track speed, Ty?
I did
Are you
know he had
familiar?
track
Okay,
speed, yeah.
world class.
Did you know that Lenora Sellers has the rec specs too, which is pretty cool.
I love the rec specs.
love that
Look at
one.
me, Ty. You know I appreciate it.
No, I get it.
Game day's there, I believe.
Yeah.
You know I love the electricity of Williams-Brice. I'm taking South Carolina here. I'm not even thinking about it that much.
South Carolina's my home dog of the week.
Yeah.
The Yakos. Home.
I'm riding the wave, Ty. If they lose by 30, I'm out on South Carolina. If the following week they win by 30, I'm back in on South Carolina.
I got him outright here.
I do too. I think
did.
so.
You're right. This is a defense with some dudes. I was high on this defense when I did the preview back in July or whenever it was, August, that we did it. I still think this is going to be a team led by defense while the offense figures out what it's supposed to be. It obviously is going to look different now that Spencer Rattler's gone, but they're just going to do what they've done every year under Shane Beamer. And they're going to be a royal pain in the ass for teams that come into Williams-Brice, especially teams that are perceived to be better than them. That's not to say that Shane Beamer has always beaten those teams, but
Right.
more often than not, it feels to me like they're at least in the game. And
You know,
so
yeah.
I'm on South Carolina here. I think it's the game of the day. And it's like 27-24. A really good matchup.
You know what gives me pause though, Ty? What's this week?
Cinemax Saturday.
It's Cinemax Saturday. Whoops.
Passion, surrender,
Yeah.
forbidden, dangerous.
And what happens on Cinemax, Ty, is the cocks tend to disappear. I don't know. I may have cursed them. I'm still going South Carolina.
I've got
It's pretty good, right? On the fly, baby. I'm 17 and will always be 17.
27 24. Go Cox.
That sounds right to me. I'll agree with you on that score.
Oh no, we've gone off the rails. 7:30 ABC, another SEC game. Then we're going to do quads. This is Georgia minus 24 at Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Can I tell a story?
Please, floor is yours.
I don't think you've ever heard this story. Actually, it's
Oh
a
my
college
God.
story from back in the days of yore. You ever have a friend get in trouble and have to go to court?
Of course.
You ever go to court to support your friend?
No.
Okay, I did.
Okay.
I had a friend who got picked up for nothing serious, but he had to go to court,
Yeah.
and he clearly did not understand the situation. And so what happened was he rolls into court. He realizes once he gets there that he needs a lawyer, but he doesn't have one. And so we went to support him because he was nervous about this thing, and realizes I don't have any representation. That was at that point that a friend of mine stands up and says, "I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll do it."
Smart.
One of the greatest look aheads I've ever seen. Okay.
Yeah.
Stands up. He says, I can do it. The next 30 minutes or so, I would describe as one of the funniest experiences of my life. Truly like that arraignment scene, if you've seen My Cousin Vinny,
Yeah.
where the judge is up there talking legalese and nobody has any idea what's going on. At one point, my friend, the stand-in lawyer, turns around and mouths to us, "What the F?" Like, we're in the back dying. All right.
Like hit by a wave at the beach, gets up, hit by another wave. Yeah.
And the judge is just rifling through all of these technical terms, and none of them have any clue what's going on. So
Yeah.
it worked
There's
out
Latin
fine.
words in there.
It worked
It's
out fine.
Deus exis.
It worked
course,
out
yeah.
fine, but it was hysterical
Great.
and something I've never forgotten the image of. And this is my way of describing what happened to Kentucky last week against South Carolina.
Wave after wave. Yeah.
It's like they panned the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? What was that? They didn't look prepared. It didn't look like they took it seriously. At times, it was borderline funny. Was this Kentucky looking ahead to Georgia?
Right.
Is that what this was? If you're a Kentucky fan, Dan,
Mm-hmm.
How are you not despondent after that?
I know.
It was a tire fire. It was horrible. And now you and I, this is the box they have forced us into. We have to sit here on this show and we have to say, well, Georgia minus 24. Do we think Kentucky can cover? South Carolina covered that.
Yeah.
Of course Georgia can cover that. Right? So I want to pick Kentucky because I like going underdogs, especially at home. Also, you got to give me something, man. Or cats, give me something to sink my teeth into. I have nothing. That was horrible last week. They're not going to beat Georgia looking like that. Are you kidding me?
I actually desperately wanted to take Kentucky. Looking
So
at
did
this
I.
matchup. It's, by the way, potential monsoon situation. It's going to be a very wet Lexington, Kentucky day.
Listen, I'm sorry if I come across as frustrated here, but I'm just so much energy in the preseason went into previewing this team and studying this team. And Brock Vandegrift, remember we're Vandegrifters. I'm throwing stuff here.
Yeah.
They look like regular grifters last week. That's what they looked like. That was such an embarrassing performance for Kentucky. I'm Georgia minus whatever. I don't even care.
When is the Bama game next week, or do they have a bye and then Bama?
I don't know. I have no idea. I'll look it up while you're talking. 45-14 is my final. I think Georgia's going to destroy them.
Maybe it was a look-ahead spot last week for Kentucky. After
That's what I'm
South Carolina's down week
Maybe.
against ODU,
Maybe.
they took the foot off the gas. Oh, that offensive line was not good for Kentucky. It was just not, full-on not good. Desperate to take Kentucky, right? Because what do I like to say? You're not who you are on your best day. You're not who you are on your worst day. And if that was indeed Kentucky's worst day, I just don't know if Brock Vandegrift is the quarterback to keep this Kentucky team in the game. I still like Kentucky's talent.
3 of 10 last week, Dan.
Yeah, it's not
3 of
ideal.
10.
Not ideal heading into the Georgia game. I don't have a good enough reason. Honestly, the only reason I have is if it's a sloshy field or something in the rain, then Georgia's just like, yeah, we'll we're up 28-10, 28-13. We'll just coast to the finish line and move on. That would be the only thing I would have there. No, I don't have a good reason with Kentucky. I'm going Georgia. I'm going to give those points.
And I don't have the final score in front of me, but I remember the game vividly a year ago. This was the game, you may recall, we had conversations in the early part of the season last year with Georgia where they were very built around the run. And we said, well, if Carson Beck is in a position where they have to turn him loose and he has to win a game, can he do that? Because we hadn't seen it to that point. And with Kentucky coming into Athens, they had a good defense, all these things that at least promised to test Georgia in new ways a year ago.
Yeah.
And then that game was over within the first 5 minutes. And they let Carson Beck throw it, and Kentucky had no answer, and they got destroyed. And so Georgia's going to do this to a lot of teams. Georgia did it to Clemson a couple weeks back, and Clemson might be half decent by the time all is said and done. I just, with what we saw last week from Kentucky, unless it was the greatest look ahead in the history of look aheads, 45-14, Georgia minus whatever.
Yeah, I still hesitate in saying last week was exactly who Kentucky is. We know that they can be that, but I hesitate with that, and this is the biggest, it's by far the biggest home game for Kentucky, although they do get Louisville at home to finish out the season in the rivalry game. But that's what gives me a little bit of pause here, that this is going to be as frenzied a home game as Kentucky will have this year, at least until that game. So I don't know. You still have to like something about this Kentucky offense to me, and I don't. And the Kentucky defense looked lost. Lenora Sellers was throwing 2 wide open receivers last week. Wide open. Bought himself a little bit of time, and there were guys running free downfield. This wasn't like a bunch of screens that went for 70 last week. This was downfield passing. So yeah, I'm going Georgia here.
You want to build some quads?
Let's build some quads.
Think about the heart, the passion, the love, the commitment, and the energy you're willing to put into it. Put it through
Don't
Here's
make
what
that
we
sound.
do.
Don't make that sound on Cinemax Saturday, Ty. Be very careful.
Good point. Here's what we do. We've got a segment here. We are the Quad Fathers, as it were. That is Tom Platz, known as the Quad Father in some bodybuilding circles. Do not do his workout. I'm told you will be crippled.
Yeah.
There is my disclaimer.
Yeah.
But We do this because if you're watching via a streaming TV provider, in many cases, you can now build your own quad. So we go through window by window. We build our ideal quad boxes for you to enjoy. Enhance your home viewing experience. Let's start early, Dan Rubenstein. Give me your 4.
I think my 4 are your 4. I believe.
Okay.
The ones you have listed here. So it's BC at Mizzou, favored by 16 points?
17 now. It
17
jumped a
points.
point.
I mean,
Yep.
Mizzou has been locked down, especially on defense. I mean, we'll see. Memphis against Florida State. Ooh, that's an early, a nooner? Cincinnati against Miami of Ohio, to whom they lost last year? Yes?
Correct.
In overtime, I believe. Arkansas State traveling to Ann Arbor to take on Michigan, although I did consider the Mean Green of North Texas traveling to Texas Tech, desperate to get their act together after their first 2 weeks.
It's been a rough go.
Yeah.
Mizzou has yet to give up a point this season.
Yeah.
Their defense has been crazy good. They haven't played anyone.
Against precisely nobody, yeah.
But that's kind of beside the point. On the per play basis, the stuff we look at, they've been really solid. And, BC's 2-0 and ranked. Their preseason win total was 5. Currently an 84% chance of them getting to 6 or more given their start. Just saying, 9and3bc.com still available. Just $18.
Yeah.
I did not buy it yet. I think Mizzou's going to hammer BC in this game. And they're going to hammer them. I think they're a horse of a different color. I think there's a huge talent gap here. You could, I guess, say that about Florida State versus Boston College as well, and you'd be right. But BC won that game because the Noles couldn't do anything on offense, and I don't think that problem exists for Mizzou. They're going to be able to move the ball at will. I'm still committed to the BC project under Bill O'Brien, and I like the start. Obviously, the start they've gotten off to has been incredible. 38-17, Mizzou wins going away at home.
Yeah, I think it's going to be somewhat of a crock-potting. I don't think it's going to be from the onset Mizzou. I think there's a certain amount of belief and confidence that comes with what BC did in Tallahassee that I think will have them ready for this on the road. They are road tested, whereas Mizzou is just not tested. So I think BC will throw a little bit at them early. But yeah, I have Mizzou here. I don't know. We'll call it 34-14. I guess that covers it, right?
Yeah. Florida State's my lock of the week.
Lock of the week.
So you look at this game, you say Florida State at home -6.5 against Memphis. I did a ton of pre-work on Memphis back in July.
Yeah.
In previously. They were the first team that I studied, literally the first team that I studied. And what people need to know about Memphis is that genuinely it is a good football team. Genuinely, they went out in the transfer portal. They added 29 guys that could come in and plug gaps or add depth or some combination of the two. Right now, they're at about a 23% chance I saw of making the college football playoff.
Okay.
They are in that conversation, being a G5 team, and a good one at that. This is the only game the rest of the way that they're projected to lose. And I still think it's a winnable game for Memphis. Even though I'm blocking up Florida State, it is very much a winnable game for the Tigers. But this is sort of a must-win game for the Noles. You can't lose this one. They've had a week to get themselves prepared now. Starting 0-3 with 2 home losses is the scene in Ghostbusters when they turn off the protection grid, okay? And all the ghosts get out, and they'll be coming to a message board near you if that's what goes down here and Memphis ends up winning. I think that what we've learned on the Florida State side is that, and I said this before the season, you might recall, mobile quarterbacks are an issue.
Issue for everybody.
Issue for everybody, but an issue for Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
They lost to 2 of them, in Haynes King and Thomas Castellanos. Seth Hennigan can be mobile. He's not what I would consider a mobile quarterback.
Not built around his running ability. Yeah,
they're going to move him around. That's just what they need to do here. But he's a different type of quarterback. I think Memphis will have success moving the football because they've got a great group of skill talent, especially out wide, like Rock Taylor. I like this team a lot. I just think this is the game where Florida State's defense finally wakes the F up. And I think we see a big game on the ground from them to take some bit of control in this game, to not put it all in the arm of DJU, to give them kind of a counterpunch, which they just have not really had one way or another. Either you can run it or you can't throw it, or you throw it, you can't run it. But they've not had any balance so far. Still a very questionable defense for Memphis as well,
Okay.
which I pegged them in the beginning of the year as a half team. Even if they make that playoff run, they're a half team. Great offense, questionable defense. Florida State 34-21 at home, lock it up. They get their first win of the season.
Are you playing the sound, the lock of the week?
I played it.
You
played
played
it.
it?
I'm not
Okay.
gonna play it twice.
I don't like Florida State here. You
Okay.
gotta like something, and I guess you do.
I do.
I don't. I think Memphis is a quality team. I think the vibes are going to be down inside that stadium. There's not going to be a lot of energy after what Florida State's done these first couple of weeks. Florida State's going to have to earn back its fans, and maybe they earn it back here. Maybe DJU is on point. The offensive line, everybody's on the same page. The defense is tackling dudes. I think there's a chance Florida State is just an average ACC team, like we've talked about. And so, I don't know. Memphis has something to prove. You have this opportunity if you are one of these teams, if you are a G5 conference team, and you have the opportunity to plausibly beat a big boy on the road. This is de facto Super Bowl week for a lot of these teams.
It
Talked
is.
about it for Kentucky, Oregon State, Washington State. Memphis having this opportunity to have one of the clear best G5 over P4 wins of the season, even with Florida State status, to do this is still a feather in one's cap. I like Memphis here.
Interesting.
What part of what you've seen from Florida State this year has you confident? This year's team, not what they were last year,
Look,
not the recruits they've brought in. What part of the Florida State experience has you thinking they are capable of beating a quality team?
if you can make that argument for the Oregon Ducks,
Yeah.
and that's why you're betting on them to cover against Oregon State on the
Sure.
road, I can make the same argument about Florida State. I think they're better than they've shown. I think the whole turnover aspect of their offseason, losing as much as they did, obviously took a lot more of a bite out of that team than we expected.
Yeah.
Eventually, though, talent wins, and they are supremely talented as compared to Memphis. They just need to get freaking organized.
Yeah, but Ty, Oregon's starting the Big 12 quarterback all first team player from last season.
Oh, I'm not saying they're the same team, but
Florida State's on a guy on, I guess they're both on their third team, to be clear. But
that's right.
DJU, how he's looked this year, doesn't look like the quarterback of a productive, if not very good offense.
Do you want to go against my lock? Is that what you want to do?
I would love to go. I'm going to say my lock is Memphis this week, Ty.
Dueling locks.
Dueling locks.
Love it. Love the animosity.
Yeah.
Two more games in this quad here, and then we got to move to the afternoon.
Please.
We've got Cincy -3.5 against Miami, Ohio. This is the game between the stoppable force and the movable object, which is Miami's offense, currently 127th in efficiency, against Cincinnati's defense, which has been pretty bad on a per-play basis thus far, especially against the run. That's been kind of a tire fire. Plus, Cincy yacked that game away last week against Pitt. I still like them more than most this season.
I like
do.
Cincinnati here. It's a letdown look-ahead sandwich potential with how they lost last week, and I
Yeah.
think they start their Big 12 schedule next week.
I
So
got
there's- yeah.
21-13 Cincy. I think it's lower scoring because it's Miami, Ohio, and they don't score.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Cincy's got a great offense either, though I do like their quarterback situation. That's an upgrade. 21-13, Cincy wins at home. Or on
Yeah.
the road, excuse
I
me.
have 20-16 here.
And Arkansas State against Michigan. I like Michigan a lot. Butch Jones, Arkansas State team. They were young a year ago. I like their offense. Think they've got sleeper potential in the Sun Belt, but they don't play any defense. And this seems like a neck crack game for Michigan where they can get some stuff moving forward. So 45-15 by final.
It 100% seems like a net crack game for Michigan. What is it that you've seen from 2024 Michigan, though? I'm going Arkansas State to cover. I don't think they're going to win this game. I just don't think Michigan is going to play quickly enough. I don't think they're going to be successful enough downfield. And look, Donovan Edwards might bust a lot of runs early, and they coast to a cover here. I don't know. I'm taking Michigan in a vacuum from this season. They didn't look incredible against Fresno State. They looked god-awful against Texas, or just fully outclassed against Texas. So, yeah, I'm going to take Arkansas State to cover this one. What's the said 24?
24.
Yeah, they're going to lose 31-10. They're going to cover.
I just don't think they're going to have much success against this defense. That's the main thing. You ask, what do I like about Michigan? I still like the defense.
Is this a letdown look-ahead sandwich, though, for Michigan? Don't they have SC coming in?
They might, but I don't see it, Dan. I just don't see it. Okay.
They've got SC next week. They had Texas last week. And here's little old Arkansas State.
They're going to pound Arkansas State.
I think they will, but what is the definition of 2024 pounding in the Cinemax Saturday, Ty?
40. Stop.
I think it's going to be a soft core pounding, Ty.
45-15 my final.
Okay.
Is that your voice pitch shifted?
Of course it is. Yeah. You ever just sit alone in a basement with a microphone and go, dangerous, and then edit the sound of your own erotic whispers in what is it, digital audio workspace?
A DAW? Yeah.
A DAW? Yeah. Is that weird? Do people not do that all the time? Do they not, like, I have alt takes, Ty. I have other words that I use, like illicit. But I decided I don't know, that doesn't fit with passion.
Right.
So here we are.
Pitch
going
shift
Arkansas
Dan
State.
Rubenstein.
Pitch
I
shift
have Nancy the Fembot coming up here shortly, by the way.
Good.
Speaking of female voices that we're making. Let's go to the afternoon quad.
Welcome to the pain zones where we live.
We had somebody write in and say, listen, you got to play all the quad father sounds. Don't just play it at the top. So there you go, sir. Thank you for listening. 4 games here that I've got in my quad. Got first, 3:30 on ABC, Texas A&M -4 on the road at Florida. At 3:30 on ESPN, we've got Tulane on the road, a 13.5-point underdog against Oklahoma. We've got Notre Dame -10 on the road against Purdue. That game on CBS, mind you. And then at 3:30, Big Ten Network, just because I am interested in this scenario, not because it's necessarily the best game in this area.
Yeah.
In this window, I've got Nevada, Minnesota.
Okay.
Minnesota favored by 17.5 points. Any of those games jump out to you as being interesting, and why?
Kind of all of them. I think all dogs. This is my Samoyed Saturday window. Okay.
Okay.
How are your Samoyeds doing?
They're barking and keeping me up at night, but otherwise they're healthy.
Yeah, I like that you named him after Brian Kelly, right? You got a BK situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very nice.
I have no idea what that means, but continue.
Aren't the first letter of your dog's names BK?
They are. Yeah, actually.
Just making sure.
That was not what we intended, but continue.
All right. I have Florida covering at home. Okay, it's a weirdly low line if you believe Texas A&M is going to be immediately strong. If you believe DJ Lagway is the answer, which I think Billy Napier said he's playing both guys.
Playing both guys. So at time of recording,
yeah,
Graham Mertz has not been cleared yet for Florida, but the expectation is that he'll be ready to go for the weekend, and that both quarterbacks are going to play. I'll say from a betting standpoint, I'm staying away. I'm not touching this game with a 10-foot pole because I don't know what to expect if it's Graham Mertz. I don't know what to expect if it's a lot of DJ Lagway. There's just too many variables on that side. So we have to pick this for Run the Board for Ballers.com. I'm not putting my money behind this one. Not even close.
I know Florida fans, even after last week's performance against Samford, yes?
Yes.
I know Florida fans are optimistic, but pumping the brakes a little bit. Hey, it was Samford. This is not a quality team. We can't really judge DJ Lagway based on his results and abilities against a team that's not quite as talented as the Gators. To that, I say, stop it. Stop it. If you're going to love with all your heart, Ty.
Yeah.
Put yourself out there. Don't be afraid of getting hurt. DJ Lagway got me going watching him last week. He was so damn good. He stood in and threw the ball down the field. He just said, what did I say? It was like F it, go deep way back when, the Joe Moorhead Penn State teams.
It was Moorhead. Before him, it was Rex Grossman. He was the original.
It was Rex Grossman at Florida. He is my, like, I when I was previewing games, like, he's my Jaime Escalante quarterback of the year, right? You remember who Jaime Escalante is? Stand and Deliver, Ty. Edward James Olmos. That's a late 80s inspirational high school movie for you.
Deep cut, yep.
You probably watched that a long time ago in class if you're anywhere near our age. I'm in. I'm ready to be hurt again, Ty. I'm in on Florida and DJ Lagway. I think he is that good. I think he is that incredible. I think he is that ballsy. So I love Florida here. I think they're going to win this game outright by a touchdown.
My sense is that A&M's the better team.
Same.
Certainly the better defense.
It's definitely.
I'm not sure how big the gap is, though. And that's the thing. The main reason why so many folks were down on Florida, why the win total was so low coming into the season, was because of the schedule.
Yeah.
This is not a disaster of a team. It was bad defense. They're trying to fix it. Clearly, Billy Napier would like things to go a little bit more swimmingly. It's not the worst team in the world. They're actually quite talented. They've done a good job acquiring talent. And I do think they will be better than last year by the time all is said and done. So this is a closer game that might meet the eye, than might be apparent if you're just kind of listening to narratives out there and hearing what people have to say about Florida. I think it's close. I think it's a good game. I think A&M wins, but I think it's like 28-27. I think it's a good game. I would take the points as well with Florida at home. So we agree.
I hate that pick for you, Ty.
For me?
That pick has no stones, Ty.
Florida
You're
+4.
straddling
What's wrong
a
with that?
fence. You're just straddling a fence.
I'm not
He's like, I think
straddling a
A&M's
fence.
a better team, but I think Florida can keep it close. Come on. Love with all of your heart, Ty. You're in this sport because you grew up with magic.
I don't love this game with all my heart. This game scares the hell out of me.
No, I'm saying, do you love DJ Lagway's potential with all of your heart?
Well, of course.
So don't protect yourself, Ty. Put yourself out there.
I've got other ones coming up here where I'll put myself out there.
Be the one to say, I love you first, Ty. That's all I'm saying. Were you the one?
Saturday,
Were you the one?
Really
Were you the
strong
one?
vibes here.
Were you the one to say that to your wife? Did you say I love you to her before she said I love you to you, or are you still yet to say it to each other?
Oh, we've said it to each other,
look
thankfully.
At you. Yeah.
I'd have to check the tapes on that one. I don't really remember.
It was me and my marriage, but I think I qualified it a little bit. Like, I didn't do it, which is why I'm out here correcting past wrongs, Ty.
3:30 Tulane versus Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I asked for text messages on the reverb line. We got a ton.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, I figured out how to turn off the notifications, so I'm sleeping again. But we employed our friend Nancy, the fembot, to read this one that came through from an Oklahoma fan named George.
Nance.
It's short. It's only like 12 seconds, but have a listen.
The vibes are very shaky. The inability to run the ball, to help out a young quarterback, doesn't make me feel all warm inside, especially heading into conference play.
That one's from George. We asked for vibe check. Check among Oklahoma fans. George cited the run. I had other people write in about the pass, about the coaching, about the offense, about the there's not really that much wrong with defense, but got some of those too. Suffice to say, yes, the vibes are definitely shaky. I think Tulane is a damn good team. I think they are legit a good team. Any questions you had about them being able to contend with teams of this ilk should have been answered last week when they basically had K-State on the ropes.
Yeah.
And lost middle of the fourth quarter on a scoop and score. They're not going to get blown out by Oklahoma here. I don't care what the point spread is. I do think that the Sooner defense is a different breed from what we saw a week ago with K-State. I think they're better. They're very legit. And they certainly are going to pose more of a challenge. But my guarantee to you, Dan Rubenstein, is that Tulane, even though they're not going to score 27 points the way they did a week ago, they will cover this point spread.
I think so too.
30-20 Oklahoma wins at home, but Tulane's a good team, and they are a tough out. They are a tough freaking out.
24-20 Oklahoma. Look, I know a lot of these lines are Vegas seemingly saying, well, they got to get it together at some point, right? And I know this is a quality team, but like Oklahoma should be much better on both sides of the ball and eventually win this game comfortably. What has 2024 Oklahoma shown? Haven't shown an offensive line, haven't shown pop down the field consistently, haven't been able to run the ball. They've shown a defense against whom? Houston?
No.
So, I don't know. I'm just on Tulane here as a quality team against a team that hasn't proven anything this year. How expensive, by the way, could it be to hire like a semi-known voice actress to read our text messages that come into the reverb line?
I have no idea. I did ask Solid Wife Kate if she wanted to do it, and she declined.
Wow. So we can't afford Kate.
We can't afford Kate.
Could we afford like Jane Leaves from Frasier? Daphne?
I don't know. If there are any VO actresses out there, hit us up, solidverbal@gmail.com.
I don't know the names of any like Cinemax level, like 2002, 1998 actresses. But if any of you are listening right now, that'd be great.
Big in that community.
Yeah.
Okay. Two other ones real quick, then we'll move to the nightcap. I won't talk too much about the Notre Dame game. Notre Dame -10 versus Purdue. Purdue played in week 1. They won 49-0 and then immediately went on bye week. We haven't seen them since. So you look at this team, the projections are not kind to the Boilermakers. They're projected to win 1, maybe 2 the rest of the way because it's a tough schedule. That's the rub on this season for the Boilermakers. This is a team that got murdered in the portal. This is a team that I think is still a year or two away from truly turning the corner, and that makes it very, very difficult. Notre Dame should win this game by 24 points.
Yeah.
They should. I don't know if they will. They absolutely have to get their passing game in order. I heard too many people last week talk about, well, they gotta get back to what they're good at and running the football and beating the brains in of whoever they're playing. Can somebody throw the freaking football?
Yeah.
Riley Leonard's looked like a dumpster fire throwing the football through 2 weeks so far this season. He was their big get in the portal.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this has not been any commercial for the Manning Passing Academy so far with what we've seen from Riley Leonard. They need to get something going through the air. I think they cover. I'm not betting this game. Not for the life of me. 31-17, Notre Dame goes to West Lafayette and wins.
Yeah, you know I'm a Kenny Minshew guy first and foremost.
I know you are.
You know where I stand. I'm taking the points here. Again, what have I seen from 2024 Notre Dame? They went to Texas A&M and won a game with a lot of like Riley Leonard left, Riley Leonard right. And now that the book is sort of out, the Ian book is sort of out on this Notre Dame offense, Ryan Walters, smart defensive mind, might not have the talent he necessarily had at Illinois with that great defense from a couple of years ago. But I don't know. At home, Purdue, haven't seen anything from 2024 Notre Dame to make me think that all of a sudden they're going to figure it out this week. So I don't know. I'm taking the points. I think they eke it out on the road in West Lafayette.
The other game here that I'm interested in, and I threw it in the quad, and it maybe sticks out like a sore thumb. I'm trying not to be too biased to Minnesota. You know I still like Minnesota.
Yeah.
But Nevada's been really plucky so far this season. They're 1-2, but all 3 games have been one-score affairs. They play super slow.
Yeah.
And try to shorten the game as much as they can, which has worked for them thus far. This could be a brutal watch. Full disclosure.
Yeah.
Because Minnesota also plays slow. They play even slower. My expectation here is that Minnesota, who did look better a week ago, still has a ways to go with their own passing game, but they look better. My expectation is that they should win and should cover this one handily. 34-10-ish. They should, if they are half as good as I have thought about Minnesota, they should pound Nevada on Cinemax Saturday. Thank you.
You know, some people like it slow, Ty.
Okay.
I'm taking Nevada here. I'm going to take the points from the same like theory as what I've said for a lot of these. Is just like, what has Minnesota done this year?
No.
Say like, yeah, they've earned, beating even a below average team by 17 plus points. I don't know. I haven't fully subscribed to the fact that Minnesota's offense is suddenly fixed with Max Brosmer. Well, I'm taking the points.
2 other quick ones here. I'm not going to do a full preview of these, but ones that I'm keeping my eye on for betting. Ole Miss -24 at Wake Forest. I think Ole Miss is going to destroy
Ole
Wake.
Miss, I like them there, especially after a tight loss last week for Wake Forest. Yeah.
And UAB traveling to Arkansas. Arkansas favored by 24.5. I think Arkansas is going to annihilate UAB.
Limb from limb. Yeah. Dilfer's
UAB
boys
has not
are
played
struggling.
defense in a year and a half. Anything else? Did I see Cam Rising maybe not playing in this game against Utah State?
Yeah, I think he's questionable against Utah State, so who knows? And that's I think Bryson Barnes, depending on who's starting for Utah State. But Utah State didn't score a point last week against USC. So
correct.
I don't know if Utah covers that line. It might be a 17-3 game. It might be extremely ugly. I have FAU over FIU. I have East Carolina as a home dog against App State. I like the ECU defense a little bit, Ty.
It's only about a 2.5 point line, something like that. Yeah,
I like a decent defense as a home dog. I think you're right with Arkansas limb from limb. I also love Miami limb from limb against a very bad Ball State team right now.
Could see that.
I like Miami there. Otherwise, I don't have strong thoughts in this window.
Let's go to the night window here, final window.
Okay.
My question to you is, how bad do you really want legs?
How bad do you want those legs, Dan?
Oh, my God. I need them. Tennis player, Ty.
So, look, we we've been getting questions about this, and I will say the night window. This would be the week to go on the date with the Mrs. or Mr. or significant other on Cinemax Saturday.
Sorry.
Not a great night slate, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
We find reasons to be interested. Most of the people listening, you wouldn't be listening if you didn't find reasons to be interested. But this would be the nice little window to see what you can do to build up some capital for the rest of the season, because weeks 4 and 5 are definitely looking a lot stronger. The 4 games that I have pulled out here, obviously, are Indiana Hoosiers, America's team.
Yeah, of course.
-3 on the road versus UCLA. It's a 7:30 NBC game. 7:30 CBS game is Colorado versus Colorado State. Colorado favored on the road by 7. 7:30 Fox game is UCF versus TCU. I think this should be a pretty good game. UCF favored by 2.5 points. And also on the ACC network, 8 p.m., I've got Maryland -2.5 points against Virginia. That game could be fun. I think Virginia will fight them. I don't know what Maryland is right now. I expected more a week ago. We didn't get it. But I think that one's going to be a fun game that will come down to the wire. I've got Maryland winning that one.
On loan from the ACC. Yeah.
On loan from the ACC. Where are you at with Indiana versus UCLA?
Love Indiana here.
Why?
There are just not a lot of vibes in Pasadena, and I don't think the vibes are existent right now with UCLA football. We'll see, but like this is not a headline Big Ten team coming in, although I think Indiana has the potential to be pretty quality this year. So I think Indiana's offense is going to move the ball. I have them winning this one 27-21.
I got 28-24 Indiana. I'm on Kurt Signetti and the Rourke family quarterback dynasty.
Colorado State, I'm taking the points against Colorado, though I think Colorado wins. Talent's going to win out. This is another de facto Super Bowl situation. Colorado needed overtime last year, multiple overtimes, I believe.
Yep.
Colorado State lost 52-0 to Texas to open up the season.
Correct.
You're not who you are on your worst day. You're not who you are on your best day. Give me Colorado State to make this close, but lose late. I have TCU at home. I think it's just tough to win on the road. UCF not tested at all. TCU at least a little bit against Stanford. I think the defense will give a little bit of pushback against UCF, and they win this one in tight fashion. And I like Maryland over Virginia. Sort of a letdown moment for Virginia after their close win last week. So give me Maryland to bounce back after their own tight, bad loss late.
Let me be clear about something, if I
could.
I don't think Colorado State's that good.
Neither do I.
I think it's fair to expect that they are better than a year ago because we're entering year 3 now of Jay Norvell, and there'd be a jump. I still think it's a 6-win team with a lot of defensive issues. That is who Colorado State is.
Yeah.
Do you need to be that good to hang with Colorado, though?
You don't need that good to be that good to overwhelm Colorado's offensive line.
I don't think you need to be that good. And this is a close game a year ago that, as you said, went to a couple overtimes. That team was worse. That team was 5-7. Now they're at home. I'm fully out on Colorado at this point. I got to be real with you.
Okay.
And if anyone listened to the previews, you know that I've been trying to make the case for, let's see what this looks like in year 2 with Dion. Let's see if he can figure out a way to do these mass line changes in the offseason and bring the team together and play as a unit.
Yeah.
And move things forward. And we just have not seen that. They don't look better. If anything, they look a little worse. So I am out on them. They are basically an air raid team that is not interested in running. They're not interested in playing defense. They're interested in showcasing Shador Sanders.
Defense shut out Nebraska second half last week.
They're interested in playing Shador Sanders and Travis Hunter to the maximum and getting them into the NFL. That's what this feels like to me. I got Colorado State outright, 38-35.
Wow.
I could see them winning this game.
I don't think they're there, but okay. So we agree on that. You have Virginia over Maryland?
I've got Maryland over Virginia.
Okay.
And I've got UCF over TCU. I just really like the UCF offense.
Okay. I need to see the defense. That's all with UCF. I need to see that clear improvement.
So do I with Ted Roof, but I'm unsure of what TCU's offense is at this point.
Right.
I've got questions on that front.
I've got Vandy over Georgia State, double-digit favorites on the road.
Okay.
Georgia State is just a little bit behind at the moment. Another game that like falls into the like, how are they favored by this many points? This year's team, Baylor minus like 15 against Air Force.
Something like that. The line may have shifted, but it's still healthy double digits.
I know Air Force, they just lost to who? San Jose State, Ken
Right.
Niumatalolo and the Spartans, but I think there's still some fight with this Air Force defense. I know they've replaced a lot of guys, but the secondary is still kind of intact. There's experience in that secondary, a little bit of experience up front. I think their defense is good enough, and with how slow they'll play on offense to just keep this low scoring. So I just think that number is kind of absurd.
I could see Rice winning outright against Houston.
Okay.
Houston's been a mess so far this season. That line, I have written down 5. I think it's moved as well. I'll have to go and check. This one's for our folks out on Discord who are big Rice aficionados.
Of course.
I could see Rice pulling that upset because I actually kind of like Rice this year.
Do they
Coming
have
into the
a
season anyway?
Do they have like a sub server called the Patty?
They should.
The Rice fans? That'd be nice.
They should.
I have Cal over San Diego State. It's a big number, and it's a letdown spot for Cal after winning at Auburn. But I don't know. San Diego State just got shut out, and their offense has a ways to go. And I think they're going to get decent under Sean Lewis, but I'm going Cal here.
All right, let's round this show out. Before we do, though, if you are in the market for live college football games and podcasts in pristine audio form, this is your reminder to go and download that network app, the Varsity Network app. Free to download in the Apple App Store, on Google Play. You just search for the school. Voila. All the content you could ever want. They did a really good job with it. We're on there. A bunch of other shows are on there as well. You can listen to live games. It's fun. It's fun. It's easy. It's fun. It's free. Varsity Network app. I've got it. You've got it. I know 1,000 people who have it now. If you haven't gotten aboard yet, now would be the time to do that free download.
Agree.
Don't forget, if you are out there, we want you to play our Pick'em game in week 3. You pick 12 things. There are 10 games and 2 player props. You are competing for a $100 REI gift card. Not a sponsor, could be.
Yeah.
All you got to do is go to playruntheboard.com to find more info, or you can go to verballers.com. Either one will get you to a place where you can see what Run the Board is. I'm going to make the post as soon as I get done recording this so that you have a nice little button to click on to get in on the action and play for prizes.
Get some comfortable socks from REI, right? You're only as comfortable as your feet are. We're heading into the cold weather time of year.
Yep.
Compete, unless you're scared, verballers.com and Run the Board. And who knows? You might be outfitting yourself in some pretty comfortable stuff.
The only other thing that I will add here,
Yeah.
I am doing the reverbs this week because our guy Shay is out of the country. Parts unknown, which means you're going to get a vintage tie performance on the reverbs. 855-Verbal-3. 855-Verbal-3. Call and leave us a voice message. I really want you to hammer those voicemail lines this week.
Man, if Notre Dame loses to Purdue and you have to edit the reverbs...
I'm quitting. That won't happen. The show's over if Notre Dame loses.
You're moving to a country that won't extradite you back for abandoning the solid verbal?
I will. It's been fun. It's been real. I love you like a brother, Dan.
Yeah.
That would be the end of the show if they lose.
Oh, man.
Some people listening might be happy to hear that.
That's, I think you're the more well-liked half.
If Notre Dame loses, I'm out. We're done with this. We're done. I'm done.
I mean, Notre Dame and Oregon both went 4-8 in the same season, right?
They did.
So maybe there's sort of a misery. Maybe we're just going to have a season of Oregon and Notre Dame down at the same time again, and so misery loves company.
I'd be completely out. I would open up my LinkedIn for other hosting jobs. I don't know. I told you I keep getting notifications about these hosting jobs up at Texas Roadhouse. Different kind of hosting, but still similar enough.
Yeah.
Maybe I look into something like that. I just can't take it if Notre Dame loses again. Doing this stupid show at midnight. Kill me. Just kill me.
On that note, please drop some dangerous, passionate, illicit, big, stanky drum and fife.
Oh, baby, oh, baby, 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 baby.
Yeah.
12 o'clock. We've got Lehigh on the road at Long Island.
Long Island.
Long Island. Long Island's been playing some real teams lately.
Yeah.
And getting smoked. They lost 45-0 a week ago. I got Lehigh here going on the road and winning this game.
I have Lehigh as well going to the island.
12:30, Marist at Lafayette. Coming into Fisher Stadium, Dan.
Not even a question. Give me Lafayette.
I'm going to go Yetis here as well.
Yeah, easy call.
1 p.m. Stony Brook at Fordham. Fordham lost last week to CentCon.
Yeah.
Licking their wounds a little bit now. You going Brookies, you going Hammies.
Careful talking about licking on Cinemax Saturday. I'm going against Fordham here. I'm going with Brooke.
1 p.m. we got Georgetown on the road at Sacred Heart. Georgetown away from the comfy confines, the hornet's nest that is multi-sport field.
Yeah. Give me Georgetown. Georgetown's been hot. Going Hoyas.
I'm going to go Georgetown as well. Have they been hot?
I don't know. I think so.
2 p.m. Holy Cross at Bryant. At Bryant. Sounds like they're going over to somebody's house.
Yeah.
At Bryant. Got to go Crusaders here, you know?
I'm going Crusaders. Even with a new coach, the vibes are still real.
6 p.m. we got Colgate at Akron.
By the way, Georgetown demolished the Foxes of Marist last week.
Oh, yes.
The last one you said was Colgate at Akron?
Colgate, Akron.
I'm going to go Moorhead here. Yeah, give me Akron.
I think you got to go Akron.
Yeah.
And finally, we've got 6 p.m. Merrimack at Bucknell. They are playing this at Harold J. Lamady Stadium in Williamsport.
Harold and Maude. Yeah, give me the Nellies.
Got to go Nellies, the neutral
Home
site
field
game?
advantage at night. Or
Neutral site
neutral
game?
site at night. Yeah.
Yep.
What is Harold J. Lamade?
That's where they play the Little League World Series. They're not actually playing the game there. I just made that up.
That's the name of the actual in Williamsport? Is that the city?
Williamsport, yeah. Bucknell is nearby.
That'd be a cool venue.
I thought so. That's why I put it on here. It only took me 8 years to finally get you on one of these.
Have you been to the Little League World Series?
I have. It's awful.
Is it really?
It's awful.
Why? It's just a bunch of like baseball kid parents freaking out?
No, you can't see anything. You're standing on the hill. I feel like you have to experience it.
Yeah.
It's obviously a cool thing, right? I'm not like,
yeah, of course.
I played Little League Baseball.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's a cool thing that they do, but the viewing experience,
fan experience
in person, leaves a lot to be desired because it's just a mob scene and it's tough to see what's going on, and accommodations, at least when I was there, weren't great.
Okay.
So I know they've come a long way with it. I think they've built the area up, and it's, we're men of a certain age at this point, Dan. Let's be real. This was
I'm not of your generation. Continue.
30 some odd years ago at this point that I went, but
okay.
Was not impressed.
Okay. Good review.
Good for the kids, though.
Yeah.
Good for them. That is all we got, boys and girls. Thank you so much for downloading, for listening, for playing along at home. Get in on the action. Join runtheboard@everballers.com or playruntheboard.com. Hit follow or subscribe so that you don't miss any of our episodes. Please stop back on Sunday morning for the new rendition of our recap podcast. We will be spitting fire. Going to be, I don't know why I said that. It'll be an interesting Cinemax Saturday, to say the least. And if you are listening to this, thank you, Dan, on Thursday, we're doing our Big Ten breakfast live Friday morning, 9 a.m.
Big Ten breakfast, Friday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, up after the fact as well. Saturday, midnight Eastern for our stream.
Dan Rubenstein, enjoy the rest of your week. I will talk to you probably about 15 minutes from now.
Yeah, I'm around.
To everyone out there, enjoy week 3. We will talk to you all soon. Stay